The Iranian government has reportedly limited access to social media as unrest over the death of a woman in custody continues for a fifth day. Protests have spread to at least 50 cities and towns nationwide, and at least 8 people have been killed. The demonstrations erupted after the death last week of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini, who was arrested by the morality police for allegedly violating its dress code. Facebook parent company Meta says Iranians are being denied access to internet services. The loss of connectivity will make it more difficult for people to organise protests and to share information. The ABC's Nassim Kardem joins us now from Melbourne with more. Hi there, Nassim. So do we know more about the events that led to the death of Mahsa Amini?
Well, we know that she was taken into custody. She was allegedly beaten by police, according to witnesses, and she went into a coma and died in hospital days later. The Iranian authorities are saying that it was due to her having a heart attack, that she had heart problems and suffered from epilepsy, and this was due to natural causes. But it's really important to note that this is at odds with what her family is saying. Her family is saying that she was actually in perfect health, and they also say they were denied access to the autopsy, and that they were basically told to bury her quickly and not speak to media about the case.
And how widespread are the current protests across Iran, Nassim, and what are the protesters calling for?
So these protests are actually very widespread all across Iran. It's really important to distinguish these protests from the ones that came before it. So in the late 1990s and early 2000s, you saw a tension between reformists and conservatives. And the protests that were happening back then were largely from middle-class, well-to-do Iranians. Now, in the next wave of protests, which was started late 2017 and went on to 2019, these came up because of economic woes. So people facing really high unemployment and high inflation took to the streets. It started in the holy city of Mashhad and it spread across Iran, and it later spread, to other issues like government policies and alleged corruption. Now, these latest wave of protests sparked by Mahsa Amini's death is basically because women are really fed up with the restrictions placed upon them. You're seeing a complete rejection of the Islamic regime. You're hearing calls, get lost mullahs, we don't want the Islamic Republic, death to dictators, lots of calls like this. You're seeing women on the streets risk their lives and take off their hijabs, and this is something that they're forced under the law to wear from the time that they hit puberty. And they're posting these videos and photographs on social media at a great cost to themselves. But they're speaking out, they've had enough. And it's a complete rejection of the Islamic rule, and they want change. They are calling for the international community to listen to their cries for help.
And how has the international community responded?
So US President Joe Biden has spoken. He's come out in solidarity with the Iranian people. He's talked about how brave the Iranian women are in their fight for human rights and said that the US stands with them. But, there's a lot of protests going on, not just inside Iran by Iranians, but the diaspora all around the world. You're seeing that at the UN itself, there's been great discontent over Iran's President Ibrahim Raisi speaking at the United Nations while all this is occurring. He's actually been accused. Amnesty International has said that he should be charged for crimes against humanity because in 1988 it's alleged that he was the person who signed off on executions of political prisoners, and there's been mass demonstrations about this. As I've said, people both inside and outside Iran are really fed up. You're seeing, images of protests in Melbourne, Sydney as well here, and they're really calling for the end of this regime, and they're wanting the international community to help them and listen to their cries for change.